Hi there, this is Alex Andre with Pressure Games. Today I'm doing a video as part of our startup series. We're going to be covering Fusion 360 today and how it's really saved us a lot of time, money, and has really helped us to iterate on the case that we're building for our new game Countdown that'll be coming out later this year. 4 or 5 months ago I had never used Fusion 360 and hadn't used a CAD tool in 15 years since I was in college, so this is all a new experience to me. And the point of this video is really to be sort of the video I wish I would have found 4 or 5 months ago when I hadn't used Fusion 360 before, just to really get me going. Most of the videos I had found were a little too complex or a little too easy and really just didn't tell me how to make what I was looking to make. So I hope this helps someone else out there. When using Fusion 360, there's a couple things to be aware of. When we first start up any new design, the first thing we go into is changing the parameters. I've already built in a lot of parameters into this design, but parameters are what you're going to use to set your dimensions on whatever you're going to build. You can type them in and hard code them as you're designing, but using parameters lets you adjust them much easier on the fly later on. And you definitely should be using parameters. So you just go in here, you create whatever parameter you need, how many buttons we're going to have, what the radius of the button, the width, the height of various features. And once this is all set up, you have basically your tool set of what you need to get going. So first thing we do here is we're going to create a sketch. Creating a sketch is basically just the 2D drawing of what we're going to be building. And so we'll start with the case itself. It's going to be, I hit the wrong point. I didn't get it right in the center there. So let's start that over. And so we're starting with a rectangle, which we're going to make a square. So we come over here and use our dimensions, which again, case length is what we're looking for here. And right there we have the outer perimeter of what our case is going to turn into. We have a character display which is going to be in the middle, and we'll just place it directly in the center of this design. We can move it around if we need, but for this demonstration it's going dead center. So at this point we have our character display, or the dimensions for it. The next thing we need to add is the circular ring of buttons around here. And for this, we're going to create a construction line. We're going to have 5 buttons, so there's not a perpendicular line that we're going to be able to use. We need to create the line for where the buttons are going to start. And so I say we're going to start right here. And for this, I am just going to hard code a number in because, again, this is a construction line. It doesn't really matter. But we're going to say it's 100 millimeters long just to make sure it's long enough. And then here I have a little cheat sheet over here because I'm not going to remember this while I'm talking on the video, since I can't even talk and type at the same time. There we go. And so this is creating the line of where our button ring is going to start. The equation isn't as important as what it's basically doing, and honestly right now when I start creating the buttons you'll start to understand what that line does, is it gets us the starting point for where we're actually going to start creating our buttons. So again, I have these parameters for UI button radius. This is how far up the button is going to start. And then I also have an equation, which again is on my cheat sheet over here. And so this long equation right here is what is going to set how big each button is going to be, and it's based on how many buttons there's going to be and what the space is in between each button. So we've created one arc for our button, and now we need to create the second arc. And so we come in here, we go up, and this is now going to be, well, I don't know what just happened there. So let's try that again. Center point arc, and we're going to do UI button radius plus the UI button width. So now we have how big each of our buttons is going to be, and we create the arc over here. Again, this is going to use the exact same equation for how long the button should be based on the perimeter of the circle, or the based on how big a circle is. Okay, so that looks right. And then I did not set the width or the height properly there. So I'll show you how to dimension something after the fact. You hit the, I think it's the D button. Well, I know it's the D button. I don't know how you do it over here. Sketch dimension. So we didn't properly set this length right here. So we select the 2 points we want to do it from. And now we can go over here. And this really should be the radius, which is to the smallest button, plus the button width. And now that properly sets it. Now, I can see right now I've already made a mistake because this dotted line here is still a construction line. We want to undo that. We want to make these real lines. And now we have the outer and the inner part of our button. And the only thing we need to do here is create lines to connect these together. And so L, oh, we're still on construction line. I'm gonna have to fix that one over there. Line and line. And then this little line right there is now a construction line. Now you can actually see the button in there. It's an enclosed circle. There we go. Now we can do this 5 more times, but that's not what anyone considers a lot of fun. So instead we're going to go in here and we're going to do this circular pattern. We're going to create 5 of these. And we select the center point, or we're going to select 4 of those. We're going to select the center point, which is right there. And it automatically creates 3 buttons for us. We're going to go in here and say that we want 5. And now since we properly set the offset with this center line, we have a nice button right down here in the center, exactly where we want it. We have 5 buttons going around, and we are looking good. So we're going to stop this sketch, and we're actually going to start to extrude this and make it into a real live game. So one sketch, we've defined our whole UI, and this actually is going to be what we need for the case too. So if we go over here to modify, and the handy Q button is what we're looking to do. And now at this point, I'm actually going to create the case itself. And so I want to extrude all of these items, and we're going to make them go away from us, away from the page. And this is going to go case depth. And so now we have the box for what we're going to be building. I'm going to hit OK right here. And then we are going to, wow, thanks Microsoft. All right, and so now we can actually shell this design out. So we come over here to the shell item, and we say, we want this item shelled, and we're doing wall thickness. And that creates us an empty box. This is where our electronics are going to go, where our batteries are going to go, wherever we need something to go inside of this. And then from over here, actually, you know what? I'm going to take that back. I'm not going to shell this right now, and I'll show you why in just a second. So I'm going to delete this. And what I'm going to do is actually create the UI interface that we want. So here, I'm going to just select everything except for the UI elements. We're going to do wall thickness, and this is going to join our bodies together. And so now we have just one body right here. And I'll show you exactly why we're doing it as one body in a little bit. But now we are going to make these edges nice and round, which is what we want from the case. It's not going to be very comfortable with those hard corners. So here I am just going to type in a number for 20 millimeters. Have a nice round edge. Maybe we'll go up to 35. That doesn't look too bad. Let's go back to 30. Okay, so now we have a nice rounded design here. The problem is it's one big solid block. and obviously that's not what we want. So we are going to split this into two individual elements, and to do that we go to split body and we click on what we want to split, and we want to split it along the axis here. Since we extruded back away from the axis and in front of the axis, it's a perfect splitting tool. So we split right there, and now we actually have two different bodies. We have the front, which is the front case, we have the back, which is the back. And you probably know where we're going to go with this, since I already showed you how to shell a design. But now we can hide our UI here, and now we have this to shell. And the reason I didn't shell it before was so that way this edge fillet, I don't know how you pronounce it, this fillet applied to both the UI and the case. That way we're only applying one fillet and it applies to everything. We don't have to go back and change both of them, which can cause problems later on. We say we're going to shell this, and again we want to do wall thickness here, and there we go. You now have two different bodies. It's hard to sometimes see that they're actually two different bodies, but you have two different bodies here. You have your case, or you have your UI, and then you actually have the case. These are ready to be printed. Obviously there's a lot more work to be done here when you have mounting screws and the electricals and everything else in here. You need pockets for the batteries. But with these tools right here, everything that we've just discussed, creating sketches, creating extruding from those sketches and using parameters, you can create more sketches wherever you need. So if we need to do a battery compartment over here, we can really easily create another rectangle just on the back of this. I'm not going to do any real good work here, just off the cuff. We stop this, and now we want to extrude that, and we can make this 5 millimeters. So now we have some sort of case here, some sort of battery holder that would not hold any really good batteries, but you can create sketches wherever you need to add more and more elements to your design. This method is what we've used to create quite a few different designs for our game. Our most elaborate was our first rev, but we're working on rev 2 right now. Our first rev had a history here of quite a few items, as you can see. We're really proud of this design, but we're also really proud to let it go and start working on rev 2, because we know where that's going, and that's really exciting. Once again, this is Alex Andre with Pressure Games. I do hope you'll check out our website, pressuregames.com. Sign up for our newsletter and join our beta list. We'll be sending out units over the next couple months here for early testers. We'll be crowdfunding in Q2 and launching later in 2019. Thank you for your time.